Okay, so this will probably be the last video in the series unless there are any more requests. I said that once I got the core functionality into place of having the tokens change color when you place another token on the board, provided that the proper criteria is met for them to change color, that I said once I got that core functionality in place, that I would then do like a bells and whistles, like a wrap up. So what we're going to do, one of the requests is people wanted to see the board respond when you're hovering over a square but haven't clicked on it yet. So in other words, they want to have an indication of exactly where you're going to be placing a token. So if I point out a square but don't click on it, it glows or changes color, it gets highlighted. And that's really a good idea because you want your environment to seem active and responsive. So what we're going to do is we already have this script which is attached to the square. We're going to have the square color change. So for ClickCon, outside of everything except the public class itself, so outside of start, outside of update, so on and so forth, we're going to do on mouse enter. So once the mouse enters the collider of a block, we will do something. In this case, we said we're going to change the color. So get component, sprite renderer, and color equals new, oops, sorry, not new vector, new color. So this should look very familiar because this is what we did to the tokens to change them from white to black. In fact, if I had a little bit more presence of mind, I would have also made the blocks white as well. That way I could have just changed the default color to green and then change it to whatever color we want here. Because I didn't, what you're doing with new color is you're actually blending. So you're not saying it's this color, you're saying take the colors that are already there and blend it with this. So it's not quite as intuitive as you would think. So we're going to do 0 red, 0 blue, 0 green, and 1 blue. So RGB, red, green, blue. And we'll save this. Now, this just changes it to the color. It doesn't change it back when you move the mouse away. So watch what happens. So just like that, we can change the color. But as you can see, where there's green, it's not the same as where there's white. So it's like this blending. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, this only checks for entering a collider. It doesn't check for exiting the collider. So I exit the collider and it stays the same. So there's a separate routine for that. So, but just like that, you can change the color. You can highlight something. So, since this is on mouse enter, unsurprisingly, to reverse it, actually sorry, I'm forgetting I'm using Visual Studio, so I don't actually have to type that out. I can just type out this. So on mouse exit. And then, again, we take this. But here's the thing. To get the default color, you don't do zeros, you do ones. Because if you recall, to go from white to black, we had to take the color out. So really what we're doing this here, we're removing the green, we're removing the red, but we're leaving the blue, but it's still based on there being green to begin with. So on mouse exit, it will turn back to its default color. So I already have my mouse there, so it already detected that. And there you go. And you can see that it truly is moving back to its original color because you can compare them side to side and there's no difference. So just like that, the color has changed. You can highlight the color. So it's a simple effect, but again, it makes the environment more reactive and it's giving feedback to the players. Something that may seem intuitive to you, the developer, may not be to the player. So it doesn't hurt to give that feedback. Unless it's game breaking, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, so that now gives us the first request. There weren't any other requests, but there were a few things I mentioned, like I talked about keeping a tally of totals. So there's two parts to this. One, we need to create two new variables to track total white and total black, and then we have to put something on the screen to demonstrate the score. So let's do the variables first. So we said that those kind of scoring and static variables would all be in game flow. You don't have to put a space. Sometimes I put a space between types. Sometimes I put a space based on tutorial or basically if I'm trying to gather when I did this. So it doesn't really matter since this is probably going to be the last video anyways, but the space isn't absolutely necessary though. So public static, again, because we don't want this changing and we want it accessible everywhere. Public static, and let's make this an int. And what's the name going to be? You could do like total white or white score or something like that. And of course, it should default to 0. So that means we're going to need public static int total, and again, keeping a naming convention if possible, equals 0. Okay. So now we need a couple things. We need these to be modified based on the changes in placement, and we need to be able to, like I said, display this on the screen. So the changing shouldn't be too tough. So when you place a token, which happens with here, okay? So when we place the token, that's on mouse down, and since you're placing this, you can successfully place a token without condition. Your score should guarantee increase by 1, but it may decrease. One will increase and the other will decrease depending on if any tokens get flipped based on that placement. So what we'll do is again, to change a static variable, you have to address the script that it is declared in. So gameflow dot total white plus equals 1. So what that means is this variable, whatever it's equal to, add 1 to it. So it looks bizarre, but that's the way it works. You could also do plus plus, which is a holdover from C. So if you want to increment something by just 1, you could do plus plus. But by showing you this, it empowers you to know that, okay, if I want to increase by 2 or 5 or 7.5, that's how you do it, because the plus plus works just for an increment of 1. Actually, I was going to copy that, but instead, let's do game flow, and in this case, it's total black plus equals 1. And what we're going to do is, for the moment, let's just put that into the debug log. So debug.log, and it will be game flow dot total white, and then total black. So we increase total white by 1, and then we print it to the debug log, which will show up in the lower left corner here. Rinse and repeat. You increase total black by 1, and you display that in the debug log. Now in the final game, the debug log is of no use. We're going to have to print it to screen, but like I said, this is an iterative process. I just want to make sure that that's working. So we'll run it, and we'll place, and as you can see, 1. So we'll wait for black for the timer to run out. It's also 1. Now, to prove that this is really working, once I put in the second white, you should see it change to 2. There you go. So we know that total white is at 2. So by placing a token, the total is increased by 1. Now the final part should be the changing. So we have a script attached to the individual tokens, and if they change color, then you need both numbers to be changed. One gets increased and one gets decreased. So that happens in the update section. So what we want to do, so if change is equal to yes, those are the ones where we should alter totals. For reverse, we said the condition is reversed and nothing happens. So we want to increase. So this says game tag is changed to W, therefore we're adding a white or multiple white. So again, game flow dot total black plus equals 1. Now, got to remember, this is being executed on potentially multiple objects. So every object will be adding 1. So if there's 3 that are getting changed, it's +1, +1, +1. That's why I don't have to put a variable in it, because again, this is executing on multiple scripts. So actually, sorry, I did that wrong. So we actually do that for minus equals 1. And then game flow dot total white plus equals 1. So my apologies for the confusion. This video is actually being brought to you in part by Smirnoff. No, they did not fund this. I just had to drink a little bit to come back to this project. So total black is reduced by 1 because we're changing this to white, and total white is increased by 1. We can copy this and then put this here, and we'll plus and minus. So just reversing it. So since the tag is being changed to black, then that means we're increasing black and decreasing white. So let's see. Actually, let's go ahead and put in a debug in here so we can immediately see what the change is. So debug dot log, and then we're going to do game flow dot. Since this one's increasing white, we'll do total white. And then I'm trying to remember if it's an ampersand or a plus sign. I think it's a plus sign. Then we'll put in some spaces, and then we'll do plus game flow dot total black. So in other words, we want to see the two totals. And actually, we'll just, rather than reversing it, we'll just keep it the same. So total white will always be the first number, and then total black will be the second number. So So we'll place 1. So we've got the total white there. And then we will place a black. We'll place a white, so it should then say 2. And then we wait and we place a black here. If this is working, white will go to 0 and black will go to 4. There we go. White to 0, black to 4. Okay, so just like that, you've added a scoring system. So last thing is to take that number and get it displayed on the screen. We're just going to do a quick kind of placeholder scoring system. So game object, 2D object, actually, sorry. Let's do a text. Now, technically, this text object is really being deprecated, but it's still in place, and we'll use it for the time being. And so basically what this is going to be, let's just shrink that size to like 0.2 to 0.5. And actually we can make it like 0.3 because we're just going to increase the font size. And the font size will be like 14 and 22. There we go. It's really just going to be a number. So we delete that. And then we simply have to change that value. So a couple ways to do it. You can create a text object and have the GM change it, or you can just kind of make a quick script attached to this and have it update with every refresh with every frame the current score. So right click, create C#, and we'll do this as text con for text control. And we click on that and we go to TextCon and we open that up. And in the update section, so with every frame, we're going to update the text. So it's going to be get component, is it text mesh, and then dot text. And it's equal to game flow dot total white. I think I have to change that to string. Is it dot to string? There we go. It's kind of finicky. Sometimes you have to turn a number to a string and sometimes you don't. I think that's one of the reasons why it's being deprecated is because there's Text Mesh Pro now. You probably saw that in the menu. But so this should always be total white. So total white is 0. Total white is 1. Wait for black. So we'll put that there. Total white should become 2. Here we go. And then it should go to 0. Bingo. And now just rinse and repeat for black. So we'll make this W score, copy, paste. And you can like move it to the other side or wherever. You can keep all the score on one side, and we'll make this B score. And the reason for that is we're going to look at the name and make the change based on the name. So here we just said change it. Now we're going to do an if. So I know what I'll do. We're going to do if So if game object dot name equals W score, then do that. I mentioned before, should always surround by squiggles. You don't have to when it's just one line, but if you go back and add a second line, then you'd have to add the squiggles. So just do the squiggles. And if the object is B score, then it should be total black. Okay. Oops, did on the white. Didn't wait long enough. There you go. Okay. And we already tested the changing, so we know it works. So that should do it for this video. I hope this was helpful. If there are additional bells and whistles you want to see, just let me know. But like I said, I think I'll get into the end of this. The last video actually didn't do well at all, even though that was kind of the key one. But I still wanted to finish this up since this was somebody's request. So I think you can take it from here. So the only thing that's really left is you're going to do a little more testing to make sure the probe really does work for every combination. It looked like it did. And then you just have to do 7 more because you're sending out 7 probes, 1 in each direction. So, again, I hope you found this helpful, and if you have any requests, just let me know, do a like, and that gets us to the end, and enjoy your day, enjoy your evening,